Hey everyone, Terror here again. You know what time it is. It's Tuesday night, Tuesday patch notes. Patch notes just got released a bit ago. And you know, as is tradition by now, every patch, I'm gonna bring you guys my patch notes breakdown and then follow up with 15, you heard that right, 15 new decks for you to potentially try out. The decks are going to be a combination of the new champions, and then there's going to be a few of them that are just going to be using some of the new cards that were revealed that support the other archetypes. Now, today I'm also going to do a little bit different. The patch note doesn't really have a lot of balance changes, so it's going to be a quick patch note breakdown. Then I'm going to do a quick reveal reaction to a lot of the new champions and cards, because you guys haven't seen me react to the cards yet. And then we'll actually go into the decks. So again, it's going to be a little bit of a long one today. Hope you stick by, and I hope some of the decks that I recommend today you end up finding a lot of fun with as we get the new patch tomorrow. So let's go ahead and jump right into the patch note breakdown. So patch notes 3.11, and obviously with this patch note, we get 3 new champions: Gwen, Evelynn, and Kai'Sa. So let's kind of go down a little bit here. New expansions, Forces from Beyond, yeah. So the new cards, like I said, after this breakdown, we're going to go ahead and jump to the new cards. Just real quick, you have Evelynn, who's a Runeterra champion. You're going to have Kai'Sa, who brings with her Evolve, which is kind of like deep. Once you have used 6 different keywords, Evolve doesn't count as one of them. But Kai'Sa comes with quick attack, so that's already, 1 out of the 6. But another 5 after that, your units, every unit that has Evolve will then have +2/+2. So a little bit weaker than deep, but kind of you get the idea. And then we get Gwen, which comes with Hallow, which is a little bit like Lurk. It's said that, for every one of your Hallow cards that die, it adds like an additional +1 attack. And then the leftmost unit doesn't have to actually be a Hallow card, could be anything, actually gets an attack buff, which can be pretty crazy when you start thinking about stuff like elusives or some other degenerate combos, right? But let's actually quickly go to the actual patch, and then again, we'll talk about the cards a little bit. New challenges, cool. Path of Champions. Oh, they introduced a new region. So they introduced Shurima and introduced 4 champions. So that's really nice for people that are fans of Path of Champions. I haven't actually gotten to play yet the new Path of Champions, but, good for them. This is awesome. Return of Labs. So if you guys have new players, you might not know what Labs are. So Labs are kind of like, it's like LOR, but with like different rules. So you have Ultra Rapid Draw, Welcome to the Jungle, United Front, which is actually a PvE mode, and it's kind of like a co-op lap. And all 3 of these are like different ways to be able to play Runeterra. For a lot of people, including myself, there were some of these that I really like. Like I really like Ultra Rapid Fire Draw. It was really fun because of how crazy everything was and some of the hard rolls that you could get. So it should be exciting. I'm glad that they're bringing Labs back. I think it's really good. Instead of just being Path of Champions, it gives people that like PvE content a different options. So good on Rite to do this. And then we get the Star Guardian event. So we get a new event with Star Guardian. If you're not following Rite in their other games like League of Legends or Wild Rift, etc., they have all these Star Guardian events going on and all these different things that are happening in games. And obviously Runeterra is going to be part of that mix. So for us, we get a bunch of, as you can see, a bunch of oh my goodness, why are the names escaping me, right? A bunch of Guardians. Thank you. A bunch of Guardians. So we got a bunch of Guardians, a bunch of card backs, and a bunch of emotes that we're going to get as part of the event. Obviously, you are going to have to unlock the event pass to get everything, but even as a free player, you should still be able to get a lot of our stuff, as what they're saying right here in this paragraph. With that, we got a lot of Star Guardian skins. So we get Kai'Sa. Cool. It gets a new level animation. You guys know my stand. I don't believe in skins. They're a rip-off in my opinion, but Rite has been doing a lot better job, especially when you get like cool animations like this. So, if that's your thing, you get all of this here. You get Kai'Sa, you get Gwen, that also has a level up animation. You get Jinx, also has her own level up animation. Unfortunately, Jinx doesn't see a lot of play right now, so that kind of sucks. And then you get Talia, Senna, Lulu, Quinn, and Soraka, all of which are just your, JPEGs. They don't really have any animation attached to them. And that's when I don't think the skins are worth it. If it's just like this, where it's just getting the JPEG, I don't think it's worth it. However, let's move on to stuff that I do think are worth it. So we get the board, we get the Star Guardian board, so pretty cool. I don't like how it looks. I think I like the one that was released recently better. This one seems a little bit too bright and too flashy to my eyes, but some people are into this stuff. Guardians, this thing is adorable. Ina, And the dolls from Gwen are also adorable. Oh man, these are so cute. And then we get a Star Garden Drake. We don't care about the Drake. Okay, this doll is adorable. I'm a sucker for Guardians. I'll buy the Guardians. And then we get some card backs here. Okay, so just All-Star Guardian related. Probably a lot of this you're gonna get through the Battle Pass, from the event pass. So yeah. And then the emotes is also where everybody spends all their money. I think this one looks a little bit awkward. The face is a little bit weird. This one is really cute, the big mistake one. This one is whatever to me. And then this one. This one is the best one of the bunch. No way. Can you imagine just dropping this on your opponent after they do some BS on you, some RNG? And you're like, come on, really? Really? You hit that elusive spell shield on that Viktor. Are you serious? No way. Then you get a bunch of icons again. A lot of this are probably related to the event pass, and you have your bundles, etc. And then nothing really. Sometimes in the miscellaneous and the bug fixes, you can find some bugs that actually impact the game. But I don't see anything here that's really crazy, right? Yeah, none of this stuff is crazy. So that's the whole patch, right? That's the whole patch. Again, not a lot of it here, so it's gonna be a quick patch note breakdown. So yeah, I mean, patch notes 3.11. We get the new expansion. There we go. So let's talk about the reveals a little bit. Before I actually jump to the reveals, I'm not going to do a big like 10-20 minute video long on the reveal, because what I've been doing, because I was away from home in a business trip last week, I didn't get a chance to make like video reactions to the reveals. So what I've been doing instead is that I've been on my Discord. If you're not part of my Discord yet, you can actually find the link on the description below. So if you join our Discord, first of all, the benefit is that if you join, you can get the roles here, Twitch or YouTube, which will tell you whenever I go live on Twitch or whenever I post a new YouTube video. You can go on my Discord, go to LOR Talk, and then you can go to the pin messages and go here, and you'll find my actual, I don't know why I didn't jump correctly. You'll actually find my actual reveal reaction. So I've actually been writing down what I think of each of the cards that have been revealed so far. And again, because I was away, I couldn't do like an actual video reaction, so I ended up just doing it this way. So if you're interested in more detailed breakdown of what I feel about some of the cards, you can find that here on the LOR Talk channel by following the pin message. With that said, I wanted to kind of give you guys kind of like just an overhead, like I kind of like an overhead view of what I think about the new cards and some of the patch, some of the new keywords, etc. Before we actually move on to the decks, because we had a pretty short patch breakdown. So in terms of the new cards, my overall sentiments, let's start with Evelynn, because I know Evelynn was the one that was just released today and everybody's talking about her. Now, Evelynn is a Runeterra champion. Unfortunately, I think she's a very boring Runeterra champion. What I mean by that is that she's kind of similar to Bar. Reminds me a little bit of Bar, where like she's really restricted to just her cards, right? When you think of like a Runeterra champion, we were thinking stuff like Jen that will open up kind of deck building opportunities, where you get something like, okay, play any card that has a play effect. Cool. However, Evelynn is very restricted to just Evelynn and her package that she can release with, which are all these cards here that can create random husk. Because her Runeterra ability is that you can play any card that can create a husk in your deck. Now, I'm not saying that Evelynn will not be strong. We see like Bard, right? Bard is a really strong champion. Really, really strong champion. But you usually only play Bard, Bird, and then Esmus every now and then. Some meme decks try out Moduli, but it's very rare, right? I think it's going to be kind of similar with Evelynn, where it's just going to be Evelynn plus 2 or 3 of her cards. So you're really only talking about 12 cards, 12 to 15 cards maximum that you're actually going to get from Evelynn. Everything else is just going to come from whatever that second region is. So that's why I don't like Evelynn that much. However, she's going to be really strong, in my opinion, and really, really powerful. I think her skill and all the husks can get out of control really, really quickly. I think people underestimate how strong the health buffs can be and how quickly they can start adding up in combination with other cards, as you've seen some of the decks that I have prepared here for you to showcase. So overall, I like Evelynn as in terms of how strong she is and the, I guess, the opportunities that she's going to enable. She's probably going to have a lot of different decks that she's going to enable. I don't like her, how boring she is. Obviously, her thematic itself is amazing. Her splash art is crazy good. So yeah, the rest of the cards are pretty straightforward. You're getting a lot of the husk support here. I don't know why Roger decreased right here, but just real quick, I think Roger decreased pretty bad. You get a lot of the support, right, for husk here. And again, a lot of the husts I think are going to be really good. The only downside is that it's very RNG heavy. So sometimes you're going to get a hust that doesn't have a good keyword, like the Yoro one that just has impact. So that's the only downside with Evelynn. So very RNG heavy champion, but I think she's going to be really, really strong paired up correctly. For the impact, for the variety day here, I think this card, Cyber Scrap, is going to be really, really good as well. I have to try to think about what it can do with it. I'm scared of the Evil Imperfectionist because of the infinite action combo, but we'll see. I think Ransom, Riches, and Swindle are really interesting cards. I think all the cards that were revealed yesterday were really, really interesting. Riches and Swindle are very good, and the Biggle Dust can also be very good in certain Outcat decks. Then we move on. I think Rite of Passage is also going to be really good, and so is Drop the Bomb. These two cards are amazing, as you'll see as I incorporate one of my Shurima landmark control decks later on here in the video. Paper-Tree is really bad. I think Riptide Ceremony is really interesting, can create some really nice fun stuff with lots of Illaoi, so we'll see how it goes there. And then let's actually talk a little bit more about Gwen. Gwen is, I think, super strong champion, and her keyword in general is also crazy nuts. So I really like Gwen and her archetype Hallow, and I think she's going to enable a lot of different crazy win conditions that you might not expect with Shadow Owls. Remember, Hallow will buff the leftmost unit that attacks, even if it's not Hallow itself. So all you need is for your Hallow units to die, and then any unit to the leftmost unit will be able to get that buff. So think about like an elusive getting a crazy like +5, right? Which is crazy. Obviously, it's a little bit balanced because it's only gift, it's not a grant, so that does keep it in check. But then talk about Gwen, it's herself. Like, she's just draining so much damage and just putting so much pressure on the opponent. Gwen is like my favorite of this expansion. I think she's crazy, and I'm super excited to try her out. Her rest of her support is pretty straightforward. I think this card, by the way, the Boisterous Host, is going to be a staple in most Shadow Owl decks. It's a really good card, even if you're not playing a lot of other Hallow cards, because, again, the Hallow buff applies for the rest of the game to any one of your units that attack to the left. So it's going to be pretty good, and you can create some nice value. Eternal Dances can create some funny combo. I think Paramore is also nuts. You're talking about a lifesteal that can potentially grow bigger and bigger because of the Hallow buff. Everything else, pretty straightforward. Again, just a lot of cards that you want to be able to kill to be able to get the Hallow value and kind of go from there. Her package, I think, is pretty good, and I think Gwen is going to be kind of like a really good staple in the meta. Like we talked about, I think Royal Decree is pretty bad. Really cool that we got some Shen support, Moral support, and Kinko student. I don't know exactly how good it's gonna be, but it's really nice. I think this card is very interesting. I think it's, grant, and you get to draw one every single time that you hit the Nexus. I think that could be pretty crazy, especially paired up with something like Viktor. So I'm actually interested to try out this card as well. Blessings doesn't seem that great to me. I don't think there's really a lot of times where you're gonna get a lot of negative keywords, but it could be a nice counter to stuff like stuns and freezes if those decks become really meta. I think Frozen in Fear is pretty bad, and so is Cracking Ice. Captain Yeti might be a little bit too late, even for a Yeti archetype. Stellarcorn, Solaris Stellarcorn is probably one of the worst cards to build in the game, so I don't know what I was thinking there. And then finally, let's quickly talk about Kai'Sa. Kai'Sa is also a very interesting champion because of how high-rolling she can be, right? It creates very interesting deck building opportunities because you have to keep in mind how many keywords you're going to add into your deck and how can you synergize her second skin with whatever other keywords you're going to get. I think Kai'Sa has the potential to also be a really strong champion together with Gwen and together with Evelynn. You kind of notice a pattern here. I think all three champions that Riot is releasing tomorrow are all really strong and have the potential to completely shape the meta in ways that we did not expect. So Kai'Sa just adds some to that, right? So Kai'Sa can get really high rolly. You can pair her with Viktor, you can pair her with Pantheon, you can pair her with Evelynn herself. You can pair her with so many different units and just get so much value from this that it is so nuts in my opinion. So really excited to kind of build around Kai'Sa as well. Obviously Supercharge is a nuts spell. It might be enough to, make something like Pantheon, like make Faded back again, maybe it's going to be Targon plus Shurima instead of Targon and Demacia, obviously. But being able to grant Overwhelm into like a big Wounded Wyvern, for example, could be really good. It could open up the possibility for Lucian Akshan to be even stronger as well. I think this card is kind of crazy, guys, kind of crazy. Bot lane, I think, seems a little bit weak for me. I think Boy Blaster could be really strong, especially if you're able to trigger the above really quickly. Abomination is such a good finisher. Such a good finisher, and I'm so excited to try out this card more. I think it's going to be pretty nuts as you get later into the game because it's really easy to have so many keywords in this card if you build your deck properly. I think Elder is really weak just because of her 1 health. The Spell Shield is not that big of a deal. The Hive Herald also seems really weak for me, a little bit too expensive. And yeah, that's kind of her package. And then finally, for the last variety day, Wildclaw Ferocity. I don't think it's that strong, but could create some limit scenarios. Training Pit sounds good on paper, but it might be a little bit too slow. And then the rest of the cards here are pretty bad, except for the Windswept Hillock. This, we get Yasuo support, so it means that we're going to be trying out some Yasuo decks. I actually think that getting Yasuo, being able to tutor Yasuo is really what a Yasuo deck needed, because now you have 6 chances of drawing Yasuo. This card I think is nuts, and could make Yasuo be a playable deck. But yeah, that's kind of like my overall reactions to like the reveal cards. Again, I'm gonna have more detailed breakdown here on my Discord, so if you're not part of the Discord yet, you can go ahead and join. The link is below in the description. Then you get to the roles, get your role, get to LOR talk, go to the pin message, and you get my breakdown there instead. So enough about that. So we did the passionate breakdown, we did some reveal reactions. Let's go ahead to what you're all waiting for. 15 decks that I want you all to try out with the new expansion. They're all going to be with the new champions or including 1 or 2 of the new cards. So here we go. I said here we go, but what I meant is that first I wanted you to bring to your attention that I do have a profile in Runeterra AR. So if you go to Runeterra AR/Serterman, or you can follow the link below in the description as well. I have a link below. You can actually go and get to my Runeterra AR profile, where actually that's where I post all my decks. So you can kind of see here all the decks that I've been theorcrafting that you'll see in the rest of the video today. And you also can always look at my match history if you're interested to see what I'm playing during the patch notes. So you're able to get my decks and also my match history, so you can take a look. With that said, let's actually move on to the decks now. So we're gonna start off with Gwen, and that's what I was talking about. I want to start with Gwen because I think Gwen is going to be really strong. And the first deck that I want to bring to your attention is going to be a Gwen Elise Prankster burn deck. So some of you might not be around long enough to know when Prankster burn was kind of popularized a little bit. So obviously the idea is that with the Phantom Prankster, you're able to burn the opponent's nexus now, and then you combine with a lot of the burn from Shadow Owls and PNC, like Get Excited Mystic Shot, and even stuff like Salesman, and then Doom Beast, and being able to just get rid of a lot of your units to be able to push that burn. How does Gwen fit into this archetype? Well, Gwen fits into here because Gwen is also draining 2 from the Nexus every time that she attacks, or potentially draining even more when she levels up. Although we don't really look to level her Gwen up in this deck, we're looking more to just use her natural drain 2 for the most part, as well as Halo buff to just put a lot of pressure on the opponent that the opponent is going to have to deal with. Combine that with, again, your Prankster, your Doom Beast, even your Bloody Caretaker, which just recently got buffed, which can synergize by killing your own Halo units, and you end up pushing just so much damage, so much burn. I like Strike of the Band because it gives me 2 ephemeral units that work towards the Prankster while also buffing up our Halo, which could be really crucial depending on what you attack with, right? Ironically enough, you can actually make it so that your Caustic Cast can actually get an attack buff because they will get buffed up by your Halo buff. So all of a sudden you could have your cast be actually a potential attacker depending on the turn. Again, this is going to be a pre-burn deck, so that's why we kind of do it this way, so that we have kind of like a low curve. I think it's really nice. It has the potential to be strong, and that's why I kind of like it here in this archetype. Let's move on to the second Gwen deck, which is going to be a control deck. Let me actually, let me not be up the pega. Let me actually move my camera out of the way so you guys can actually see it, the whole card. So this is going to be Annie Gwen Conservatory. So you kind of see where I'm getting at here. Gwen reads, right? If you look at Gwen, she drains 2 when she attacks, or she drains 1 for each 2 attacks that she has when she levels up. You know what's going to add a number to that? Conservatory, right? So if you play Conservatory and you play your Tybaulk, now your Gwen is draining 3, right? So now Gwen's skill is draining 3, or draining 2 for every 2 attack that you have once she's leveled up. So all of a sudden you can create some crazy scenarios where you're just draining so much for the enemy nexus. And that's the synergy that I see here with Gwen and Conservatory. The rest of the deck is pretty straightforward. It's just pure Noxus Shadow Owl control. So obviously go hard as an alternate win condition together with the Catalog of Regret, Flock, Disintegrate, etc., etc. We have some draw with the Glimpse. We can sacrifice some of the House Spiders or even the Hosts to be able to get there. And kind of go from there. Glimpse can be a little bit accurate, actually, now that I look about it. We don't have that many units. So actually, maybe Glimpse could be substituted for Whisper Words. So ignore that part. But we have enough other control tools to be able to survive long enough to get to that value of Conservatory with Gwen as a potential win con. Obviously, I still like playing the Boisterous Host. That's what I talked about. I think this guy is kind of like a staple because it will give us the first Halo buff and allow even our Annie and our Gwen, etc., to be able to just push a lot more damage. And the Halo buff is not even bad with Tybaulk because Tybaulk has Overwhelm. So all of a sudden, your Tybaulk could get even bigger and bigger that the opponent cannot do anything about. So again, the idea here with this deck is just going to be Gwen, Conservatory, and control the rest of your opponent's board like that, and kind of go from there. Pretty straightforward. Not a lot changed from the usual Noxus Shadow Owl controls. So let's go ahead, move on to the next one. And it's the third Gwen deck of today. And this one is a degenerate combo. What the orders do you expect from it? So this is gonna be Gwen, Yuumi, Faes. You heard that right. Gwen, Yuumi, Faes with obviously Rainbowfish, right? So the idea here is that Gwen and Halo units really like the fact that you have elusive. Because again, whenever they attack, they're getting buffed up by 1, by 2, by 3, depending on how many Halo units have died this game. So all of a sudden, if you're able to put elusive on like a Gwen or like another unit that gets buffed up, let's say Rainbowfish on your Owlcat, which has spell shield, right? Then your Owlcat is hitting for 2 + 2 from Rainbowfish and potentially another 1, 2, 3, 4, however many Halo buffs you have. You're getting hit by a big elusive with a spell shield on it with a lot of damage to be done in the field. So that's kind of the general combo, right? The rest of the deck is kind of supporting that. There's a few different combos here in this deck that you might see. Obviously, like I talked about, I keep talking about the Host. I think the Host is really good in this archetype because it's buffing up your Halo. Really, we care more about the Halo buffs this time around than we actually care about Gwen. So this ends up being really good. The Oblivious Islander, if you don't know, the combo here is that if you give attached unit Ephemeral, they actually don't transfer the Ephemeral to the unit that they get attached to. So you can actually use the Oblivious Islander to reduce the cost of Yuumi or reduce the cost of Rainbowfish. And then from now on, those attached units will always be reduced by 1. Even when they get recalled back into your hand, they will always cost 1 less. We play some more elusive here to take advantage of Halo. Grandfather Fae, obviously in combination with Gleaming Lantern to get those hungry Owlcats. Mass Mother is another nice combo. So the combo with Mass Mother is that if you kill an ally that has the elusive from the Rainbowfish, the Mass Mother keeps that elusive. So you get your Rainbowfish back into your hand, and now your Mass Mother has that elusive and potentially spell shield if you kill that hungry Owlcat. So the Mass Mother ends up adding quite a bit of damage here, ends up sending your Rainbowfish back into your hand, which then allows you to replay that Rainbowfish into a different unit instead to have multiple elusive. The Paramore is really good in this deck because you can actually put the Rainbowfish on it, and now this guy has elusive and gets bigger as well when you attack with him while also providing you lifesteal. And then for our spells, obviously Face Sprout, Pokestick. I like Strike of the Band because again, we care about getting as many Halo units dead as possible. So this is automatically really summoning 2 of them, can serve as blockers for your opponent's attack turn that you don't care about them dying, because then you are able to just buff your units, and then Atrocity to finish up, right? With enough Halo units on the field, you can actually finish up with a big Atrocity. You have a lot of units that can get really big. You've been doing some burn damage with Gwen. This deck, I think, is going to be toxic and has potential to be really good. Just because I feel like it's really hard for people to stop it, right? You have to deal with the spell shield from the Hungry Owlcats. You have to deal with the Rainbowfish elusive. You have to deal with potential Atrocity. You have to deal with Gwen and potentially Yuumi being able to also level up during the game. It can get out of control really, really quickly. And I don't know, I'm kind of scared. I'm kind of scared of a deck like this that can just get so much value, right? So should be interesting how this works out. So that's 3 Gwen decks that I have come up with, right, in combination with other stuff. Let's move on now to the next champion. So now I'm gonna talk about Kai'Sa. Now, this Kai'Sa deck is gonna be the first Kai'Sa deck I'm gonna show to you guys. It's gonna be Demacia. So it's gonna be Shurima Demacia. So pretty much think of like Sivir Akshan. Instead of we're not playing Sivir, we're playing Kai'Sa instead of Sivir. Now, and the deck is built really differently. This deck is built a lot different because it's kind of relying on 2 things. It's relying on Kai'Sa or the Boy Abomination to finish up the game. Now, you might be thinking, how are we finishing up the game and what are the keywords that we're getting? Well, we're playing some units that might not be good units just so that we kind of are able to combine them with Kai'Sa or later on the Abomination. Because remember, the Abomination, all it cares about is that it grants all the positive keywords that allies have had this game. So even if you play that bad unit once and then he dies, the Abomination will get their keyword when it actually jumps out into the field. So what are we playing? Obviously, we can stick with the Browin into Protector combo because that's just really nice. And this alone is already 3 keywords, right? This is Formidable and Challenger, and this is Barrier. And then we play Merciless Hunter because both of our units have quick attacks, so it's a nice way to get value from the Merciless Hunter. And then goes what we call our buy unit. So we play 2 Pumpers Cavalier. And the reason we did that is to get access to double attack. You kind of see where this is going, right? Double attack with the Abomination is going to be crazy, especially when you have stuff like Silverwind Diver. Oh man, that Silverwind looks like a car right now. Silverwind Diver, which actually has elusive and tough. So all of a sudden, you can get your Abomination to have double attack, elusive, right? Or as well, put it into the Kai'Sa. You can give the Kai'Sa elusive and tough. This starts working towards our Kai'Sa level of condition, which is really, really nice. Radiant Guardian, pretty nice. Lifesteal and tough, and you can transfer over to Kai'Sa as well. We took out Illumination, and then we have our support here, right? So Shapestone because of the landmarks. Blinding Assault is really, really good with Kai'Sa as well, and with Boy Abomination. Because the Blinding Assault right away gives you Challenger and Scout, right? So you can synergize really well with Kai'Sa. You can have a turn 5 where you play Kai'Sa in turn 5, play Blinding Assault for spell mana, copy the keywords from Blinding Assault, attack with Blinding Assault, get another second skin because it works with Scout, right? Yeah, you get the attack token again, so you can get 2 second skins in a single turn. Then we obviously have Sharpshooter Protection, 1 of Sober, and then we have 2 Supercharge, right? Give ourselves Overwhelm, which can also work towards the Boy, and can synergize with the fact that we can potentially have double attack again. And then lastly, Golden Aegis for rallies and Rally Negation to protect our Kai'Sa or anything else. Akshan is really there, my champion of choice, because Akshan gives us a lot of consistency by being able to give us the Warlord's Palace to be able to predict and draw into our combo. That's the only reason that Akshan is there. But yeah, this deck could be interesting. The combo with Abomination might be a little bit hard to pull off at times, but it could be interesting how crazy it can get depending on how the game state goes. But I think I'm kind of excited to try out something like this. Let's move on to the next one. The next Kai'Sa deck that I have is gonna be Pantheon Kai'Sa. So you might be already aware of what the synergy is here, right? So the idea is that obviously you can level up Pantheon, and when Pantheon drops down, he has so many keywords that he's gonna be able to level up your Kai'Sa. You can even go ahead and copy the keywords from this Pantheon if you need to, which is going to give a lot of keywords to Kai'Sa as well. So you might end up with like 2 Pantheons on the field at the same time, which is crazy. The other synergy with this deck is that now you have Shurima access, which gives you access to Supercharge. So we lost access to the Targon spell, right? The Targon Leona spell, Zenith Blade, and instead we get access to Supercharge, which not only gives you grants, not give. Not only does it grant your unit Overwhelm, but it also grants them Spell Shield, which is really good when you have your big Wounded Wifeling or you have your big Saga Seeker. This is still triggering the Faded, and all of a sudden these units have Overwhelm Spell Shield, and they're really, really, really difficult for the opponent to deal with. Now, we do lose access to Yuumi. I guess we could still play Yuumi in a deck like this, to be honest. Maybe we do play one Yuumi, because that is one of the ways that our big Fade get bigger and bigger. So there's a consideration that you can cut to 2 Kai'Sa or 2 Pantheon and then just play 1 Yuumi, or maybe you go 2-2. Maybe this is a deck where 2-2 actually makes sense. Just because, you know, Yuumi is really important to get your faded units big, but again, for now we're just gonna focus on Pantheon and Kai'Sa. We do still have a lot of self-target things that we can do. Guiding, you know, we play Triple Shape, Guiding Touch, Spell Cascade, Sunblast Bigger, Absorber. Decidue is really good because you can trigger your Faded and allow you to actually even trigger Fury if we're able to kill a unit. And then Supercharge, of course. So we could potentially still get really big Faded, but they won't get as big as if you had Yuumi. So just keep that in mind. And you also lose access to the strikes because you're no longer playing Demacia. So you have to be a little bit careful as well how you respond to your opponent. That's why we do still keep 1 Hush here just in case. But the good thing is that we do get access to Battle Negation, so we can stop some stuff like Vengeance sets, etc. from just outright killing us. Interesting deck in my opinion. Again, leaves room for some experimentation. We could go 2-2. We could go just 2 Kai'Sa or 2 Pantheon and just add a Yuumi in there. I think there is some potential for us to kind of explore how this deck could work out that way. Obviously, we also get access to the gem, which will let us target a lot of our units a lot of times as well. Oh yeah, so that's Kai'Sa Pantheon. Let's move on to the last Kai'Sa deck that I have for you all today, and it's probably my favorite Kai'Sa deck and the first Kai'Sa deck that I'm gonna try, and it's gonna be Kai'Sa Viktor. You already know that I love Viktor. So obviously this is just a mix of one of my favorite champions combined with an alternate win condition. We lose access to Ionia, but Shurima still has enough tools that it makes it chef's kiss to be able to be a good region. So the synergy here is obviously that Kai'Sa can just copy all the keywords that Viktor has. So then you end up potentially having super big Kai'Sa, super big Viktor at the same time. Even if you don't get Viktor, you do get a lot of access to a lot of good keywords from PNC. So you have access here to the Flame Chompers, which gives you access to Challenger, which is really good with Kai'Sa because she has quick attack, obviously, right? You have access here to the Pearl Cannon, which gives you access to Elusive, which again could be pretty good with Kai'Sa. So this deck, it is playing kind of the discard archetype. So we're playing full-on Urchin, Chompers, Dredgers, Boomer Boom package. This is to allow us to try to draw into our champions better. We have some more discard fodder with Ballistic Bot. The reason that I'm playing Ballistic Bot here instead of playing Ferrous Financier is because Ballistic Bot could be an alternate win condition with Supercharge. This is the other big synergy of this deck. We can add Supercharge to either Ballistic Bot or Viktor, creating a big overwhelm unit with Spell Shield that the opponent might not be able to do anything about, which is actually super nuts. Obviously, then we can also we play 1 Camo Crocker here because I want to try it out and see how it plays out. If it's a little bit accurate, we might get rid of this and just play something else instead. Then we do still have Burn, so get inside in Mystic Shot allows us to remove the opponent's unit or be able to just finish up the game. And then Time Trick lets us draw. And obviously, Battle Negation kind of takes the place of a deny to protect our units, protect our Viktor or Kai'Sa from dying. I do play 1 Boy Abomination because, again, it's going to get all the keywords that Viktor has seen in the game. I probably want to go up to 2 of these because this becomes a really big finisher as well. Because right away, we know it's very easy for a Boy Abomination to get Elusive, right? Because of the Pearl Cannon. So right away, we know that this is almost always going to come down with Elusive. The only downside is that we don't have a way to get Scout. So it's not like the other decks where we can kind of high roll because we have Scout and Elusive at the same time. I mean, enough about that. I think Viktor, again, is really good pairing with Kai'Sa. And I wouldn't be surprised if it comes close to being one of the best pairings with her, just because of how much value you can get from this right here. But yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and move on to the next deck. So let's move on to the next champion, which is going to be Evelynn. So again, I'm going to give you guys 3 Evelynn decks and go from there. The first one I'm going to start with is Lucian Evelynn Dawnspeakers. Now I based this list off Infinity Patrons, who was also have built a similar list in Runeterra AR. So the idea here is that obviously your Husk are dying really easily, right? Because your Husk will die anytime that you summon another unit, which works with 2 things. Works towards the Lucian level of progress and can also work to enable your Dawnspeaker. So all of a sudden, every time one of your Husks is dying, now you're granting all your other units in the board +1/+1. which I think is a very interesting combination that I hadn't thought about until I saw Infinity patterns do this list. So from the Evelynn package, we play Evelynn, we play Solter, we play Bora. So both of these units are able to summon a Husk, obviously, and I think they're really the best two units that you can play with Evelynn. I do like playing one Solitaire, to be honest, because I like the idea of just getting random keywords and be able to potentially hard roll into something even crazier. With that, again, the husks are very important for this deck, so I do like playing the triple allure. Not only is it giving us a random husk, which enables our Dawnspeaker or our Lucian, but it's also granting one of our units, granting that husk +1, meaning that whatever unit eats up that husk is going to have +1/+1, which is very, very powerful, as we have seen in a lot of cards that have got a nerf that give both attack and health. So that +1/+1 can synergize with a lot of our challengers, for example, from our Demacia package. And I do play the hate spike because, you know, killing our own husk is not a big deal. And it summons another husk in response. So I kind of like the idea of using this to kill one of our own husks and kill one of the potentially kill one of the units and respond, and kind of recycle a different husk instead that we feel might be better. With that said, how does the rest of the deck look like? Well, from the Demacia side, obviously we get Lucian, which can synergize and potentially give us access to the rally. And then we just get a bunch of challengers. So Fleet Feather Tracker, Broadwind, Lord and Protege all get buffed up by health every time that they eat up a husk and potentially get a different keyword. You know, maybe sometimes you high roll quick attack. That'd be pretty nice. Together with the Sculpture, it means that almost all the units that you summon are going to be additional health, whether it's from the Sculpture or from having a husk on the field. Obviously, we talked about Dawnspeaker, and then we do play 2 Reigning Guardians here so that we have some health for us to survive. Because the Reigning Guardian really likes having extra health, and she's going to have a lot of extra health from all the husks. And obviously, the husk being killed also enable your Guardian really easily, which is where the synergy comes into place. Ranger's Resolve and Sharp Side just there for protection. Funny thing about Ranger's Resolve is that you can actually use it and then eat up the husk that has the Ranger's Resolve, you know, potentially. But yeah, Sharp Side obviously there to protect us. There's potential that there's room here for rallies, but I don't know if we actually need a rally. I think we're okay kind of slow playing it and relying on your solution to have the rally. So very interesting combo because of the Dawnspeakers, and I'm actually super excited to try out this deck and see if this is actually a playable Dawnspeakers deck. You know, you never know. It has a lot of health, so it's very easy for it to stay on the field for a long periods of time, especially when it gets additional health from either Sculpture or from the husk being on the field. So yeah, so pretty cool here. Let's go ahead and move on to the next Evelynn deck. Obviously, one thing that you read when you see Evelynn's and her level up is that she actually transforms back down. So obviously she levels up right away when you kill a husk, and then and then at the end of the turn she will transform back down. Or actually, so the end of the turn is the beginning of the turn. I always forget which one it is. So she will transform back down. So the fact that she's able to transform up and down, similar to Gnar, we have seen this already. We have seen champion that can transform back down to the level 1 because we have Gnar. It means that right away, the synergy that Jonathan made was Chief Nakotak. So that's what this deck is about. It is a Chief Nakotak deck because every time that Evelynn is leveling up and leveling down, it gets +1/+1 and impact. +1/+1 and impact, right? Plus gets fully healed in case that she took any damage. So it ends up adding up really quickly once the Evelynn keeps leveling up and down, up and down. Obviously, Nakotak just recently got buffed, which makes it a little bit of a better unit, and the impact can start adding up really, really quickly with both of these units. With that said, we kind of play the full transform package, right? So we play Bits Elixir, really got buff as well, can be really powerful, and then we play Teeny Dactyl. So these 2 units combined with Evelynn and Gnar should be enough transform units for us to kind of get by. Then from the Evelynn package, we are playing Sulfur, we are playing Bora, which is the 2 that I talked about that are really, really good. I like playing Domination in this deck because Domination means that she's also giving your other husk +1 attack. So all of a sudden, they can start adding up really quickly, and you can start going with like a really big Overwhelm unit if you're able to eat up whatever husk it was, right? So you can start adding up really, really quickly here. Stone Stackers, Invented Chemists are just there to enable our transform effects. Obviously, the Chemist especially is really good because it can set up the Scrappy Bomb for a turn 4 flip on the Gnar or the Tinidactyl. With that said, we also do play Drop the Bomb, which also kind of does the same thing, enables a Scrappy Bomb while also removing our opponent's unit. And we are playing Poison Dart and Pokestick to be able to also trigger Transform when we need that. And then Illaoi is just there to just grant us additional husk, because we do still need to be able to level up Evelynn. And the way that she can level up really is the way that she can stay. I guess actually, now that I think about it, maybe we don't need to play that many husks, because we don't want Evelynn to stay leveled up the whole time, right? Ideally, we want Evelynn to continuously level up and down. So the more husks that we kill, the worse that is. So maybe Illaoi is actually not a good choice. Maybe we play maybe the Grump, right? The 5-drop Grump. It could be really good here because it's another transformative with Shift Nakotak. But still, maybe you do want to play for the Evelynn win condition, and having additional husk that you can sacrifice could enable that. So yeah, so I think this is my list for the cheap Nakotak version of Evelynn. So let's move on to the last Evelynn deck, and the last one is bringing back a card that everybody loves to hate, and you see it already here, Bandle 3, right? So Bandle 3, the idea here obviously is that your Evelynn package is summoning a lot of random husk, which can work towards the Bandle 3 win condition, especially once your Evelynn levels up and she's summoning like random husk every turn. You potentially start advancing the Bandle 3. Now, Bandle 3 got nerfed pretty heavily, where now it needs to be on the field and actually see the cards. So I wouldn't recommend playing this deck if the meta shapes up to be like really not so heavy with a lot of like landmark control. But if you don't see a lot of landmark control, then this ends up being really, really good, because the landmark's probably not gonna get removed by most things in the game. You can go ahead and play your Evelynn and get a lot of the different tugs from Solter and the Domination, while still having the Bandle, and even the Illaoi as well. I really like the Illaoi in this deck, while still having the Bandle 3 package that can also summon a lot of units because of their easy way to fill the field with Mayor, Telescope, Loop Travelers, etc., etc. We have a lot of kind of control tools with Buster Shot and Wild Up and Pokestick. We even have Poppy, which can potentially buff up all our units even more. Poppy's gonna be staying alive longer because Poppy's gonna get the health from the husk if you have a husk in the field. So you could literally do like Domination on turn 3 and then Poppy on turn 4, and now your Poppy has 4 health and can buff up your other cards, which can be pretty crazy. So just think about it. Just think about it that way, right? It can get really crazy really easily. Aside from that, we do have obviously some draw so that we can get to the Bandle 2 win condition and kind of go from there. Not sure how strong Bandle 2 will be because the nerf was pretty significant, but it should still be good enough to potentially see some play here in certain metas. So yeah, let's move on now to the other decks that don't have the new champions, but it still have a lot of the new cards that have been released in this expansion. So to start off with, we're just gonna go with Yasuo. Of course we're gonna go with Yasuo because we got a new tool here with the Windswept Hillock. So now we have a new tool that means that you can tutor Yasuo and potentially be able to, you know, just get Yasuo on the field, which I think is the biggest problem with Yasuo decks, that you really, if you didn't enjoy Yasuo, kind of felt like your deck was not doing anything. I am combining Yasuo with Katarina because I think the Hillock, obviously if you read the Hillock, is every time that you get the attack token. So Katarina can potentially synergize with that, so you can stun multiple cards at once. So let's say that you have like 2 Hillocks on the field. You can play Katarina, you're stunning 2 other units, boom, boom. And then now you have a rally with Katarina. So I think this card was meant not just for Yasuo, but also for Katarina synergy. So I think we're gonna go with just Naxos as a second region. Now, we are gonna play the Blade Twirler here because it can get really big with both Katarina and all our stuns. House Spider because we need to be able to protect ourselves. With that said, I like this station a lot because it counts as a stun, and it can also present like a really big attack as well as protect ourselves against completely shut down the opponent attack is what I'm getting at. Obviously, triple sentry, Shadow Assassin just for some draw. And here I was really stuck on what to do because we already have Hillock. I decided to just go down to 1 Reckoner and then instead go play 2 Sailing Thousand Tails so that we actually get some draw and potentially able to survive against the opponent threats. Then on the other side with spells, we have Ionic Tailstones. I really like it because it gives us a lot of flexibility between Homecoming, Stand United, and Health Potion. It's one of the best Tailstones in the game. Flock, because obviously sometimes you might not kill the unit with Yasuo, so Flock can finish it off. And we have a lot of stuns to send just with Flock. No Prophetic Denied are just there to protect our units. 1 Might for the potential big Blade Twirler, and 3 Concussive Palm, and then 2 Strategic Execution. just for some alternate win condition. It can either stun 2 units or potentially give us the Legion General, which because of all the stuns that we have and all the recalls that we have, the Legion General could potentially be really big. Now, don't know how good this is actually going to be, but this is my first attempt at what I consider a Yasuo deck. I'm by far not the Yasuo expert, so I would kind of check out what Jay Sensational has in store for Yasuo if you really want to see what I say, what I think might be the best Yasuo list. But yeah, so that's my attempt at Yasuo using the new Winsec Hillock card. Let's move on to another, I guess, variety deck. And this one is going to be Yetis. So this is going to be Naxos, Freljord, LeBlanc, Yetis. And obviously the idea here is that we're going to be using the new Trifarian pits so that every time one of our Yeti attacks, we're able to rally and attack again. And we're also going to be using the Captive Yeti, which is going to be a lot of times at 3 cost, 5/5 Yeti, which is really, really good value. Plus he also has Overwhelm. The rest of the deck is pretty straightforward, right? So we're playing all our Yeti cards in the game. So Yeti Yearling, Trapper, Captive Yeti, Ancient Yeti, Abominable Guardian, right? The combo here is that if you have 2 Yetis in the field, you can get the Guardian for free. We even play Tall Tales just so that we can guarantee sometimes that we can get that Abominable Guardian down for free. Better earlier rather than later. And then we even play with Pack Mentality because sometimes you might end up with a lot of Yetis in your field, but not a way to actually give them overwhelm to kind of push you over that edge. He also, Pack Mentality also synergizes a lot with the Training Pits or with Tactician, allowing us to be able to rally when we actually commit the Pack Mentality. Depending, I guess to do this play, you have to have the full 13 mana, but at least with the Training Pits, you can set up the Training Pits ahead of time and then do the Pack Mentality. The rest of the deck is kind of just support, Trollshan to let our unit survive, Whisper Word to kind of draw into what we need to do, and it's very easy for us to trigger Reputation. One Reckoning as a form of removal that really has a hard time being cancelled. And then on the unit side, obviously Sentry to draw, Trapper to summon more Yetis. Hearthguard, I like Hearthguard a lot. It could be a little bit slow in this deck, but I like Hearthguard to potentially buff everything up even more. And together with Assessor means that we have a lot of draw in this deck, more than the opponents might expect. I think this deck has a potential to actually be a really good mid-range deck. Honestly, my only if I have to go back and kind of change this a little bit more, it's the potential that we might need a little bit more removal because right now our only removal tool is really Reckoning. So maybe we play some more spells that can deal with the opponent's stuff, like the Nazi 4-mana Strike. I think that could fit really well into this deck potentially. But again, we'll kind of see how much removal you actually need to do in the meta to actually justify that. But if anything, I would probably swap out, I don't know. It's kind of hard to see what to cut here, right? Maybe we cut the Reckoning. Maybe we cut the Reckoning and cut some of the Whispered Words since we're playing Trifarian Assessor so that we instead play that Strike. But again, we'll play around with it and kind of see how that ends up. But Yetis should be in a decent spot in this meta. Then we'll move on to another deck, and the next one is going to be Akshan Shen. Now, this is reaching a little bit of a meme tier. And, I wanted to just throw this out there because I was like, wait, what about this combo? And I think it has a chance to potentially be kind of crazy. So the idea here with Shen and Shurima is having access to Supercharge. So Supercharge gives us Overwhelm and Spell Shield, right? 2 keywords that are very, very good. Very, very good. And you know what they can synergize with? Well, what about we give them double attack? What if we play a Sacred Protector and give the unit that has the Supercharge double attack? Also, we can also do it with the Rune Runner. So the idea here is that we have a Sacred Protector combo deck. And potentially should go up to 3 of these, but I also feel like maybe a little bit too expensive. But the idea here is that you're going to finish the game with a double attack Rune Runner, or double attack any one of your units that has the Supercharge plus obviously the Barrier. You have a lot of ways to get Barrier. You have Shen, you have the Moral Support, which is the new card here. You have your Quinco Student who have Barrier. Your Caretaker could get Barrier from Shen, and the Caretaker could become really big. That combined with Supercharge and Sacred Protector could just end the game on the spot. So you can kind of see where the combo is going, right? The idea with the combo is that you get a big unit, whether it's the Caretaker, the Rune Runner, you pair them up with the Sacred Protector and either Supercharge or anything else to be able to just give them Barrier, double attack, Spell Shield, and Overwhelm. right? Have those 4 keywords in a single unit, finish the game that way. The rest of the deck is kind of working towards either protectors to keep us alive, or allowing us to do a lot of chip damage early on. So stuff like Treasure Seekers just there as blockers. King Custoder is just nice. It can be like a free attack, right? Or a free trade together with moral support, because you're able to give another one of your units barrier, and this also gets barrier, so you can end up blocking the opponent and just blowing them out completely. River Shape is just there to kind of draw us into our combo pieces. Vagabond and Akshan are here to add consistency, because they're able to give us access to the Warlord's Palace, allowing us to be able to predict and potentially draw into the Sacred Protector or a Ruin Runner, which are 2 cards that we really need. Hyena Telstone can actually give us access to Stand United, which is also another way to commit your potential lethal. Stand United can let you swap whatever unit had double attack and go from there. And then obviously Shavestone, Quicksand for protection, Deny to protect ourselves, and then Moral Support and Spirit Refuge as our barriers. It's really funny concept to think about. Again, don't blame me if you run into this. I mean, don't blame me if you play this deck and end up not having success. It's purely untested, but I think he has, some interesting idea here to potentially be okay, right? And again, the idea is that you want to play for the late game where you just go with the Sacred Protector and have a unit that has over 1 spell shield plus double attack and barrier to just finish the game up that way. So yeah, should be interesting. Let's move on to the next one. And this is going to be Illaoi Lutz. And obviously the reason that we're revisiting this archetype is because of a little card here called Riptide Servant. I think Riptide Servant is a lot better than people give it credit for. This card does so much for 6 mana. It's killing an opponent's unit, it's giving you a 3/3 blocker or buffing your existing tentacles, and it's also dealing 2 to the opponent's nexus, which is probably the worst part of this card, that is only dealing 2. But it's still burn that could add up later in the game, especially because obviously we're relying on a deck that relies on the Overwhelm to kind of finish up the game. So this is going to be Illaoi Lutz Demacia. Obviously you have seen this archetype before already. You're playing your full Illaoi Lutz package, Watchful Idols, Seas Boys, Night Caboros, Tentacle Smash, and now Riptide Sermon. So we have a lot of ways to generate those tentacles and be able to synergize with Illaoi. Even if we don't get the Illaoi, the Lutz can be on the field and present a lot of damage. I really like back-to-back in this deck because it can actually buff up Illaoi by +6 attack. Because let's say you have a Tentacle and the Illaoi on the field at the same time, you can do back-to-back on the Tentacle and the Illaoi and then attack. And because the Illaoi takes the power from the Tentacle, you get the full power from the Tentacle, including that +3 that you just did with back-to-back. So all of a sudden that Illaoi becomes just a beast that the opponent has to deal with. With that said, we do want to level up Illaoi, so that's why we do play a lot of strike spells, 2 single combat, 1 cataclysm, 2 concerted strikes. These things will allow us to do strikes with our tentacles or Illaois and potentially be able to level her up. Golden Ages can synergize with Illaoi to just be able to win the game, or can even synergize with a big tentacle buffed up with the Seas Boys. We play the Surgeon for access to more 6-cost spells with Demacia. Obviously, Broadwind and Persuader are just there as like really good value challenger engines to be able to remove the opponent's units. Yeah, I think it's a really good concept and has the potential to also be strong. I think Demacia with Illaoi was already strong to begin with. So now adding this new card and potentially have more synergy with Lutz could make it pretty crazy, in my opinion. So yeah, so let's go ahead for the next one. And here we go to our landmark control that I have mentioned in the beginning of the video. So here we're going to go with Zilean Xerath. So the idea with Zilean Xerath is similar to a video that I posted recently in my channel, where you're just kind of controlling the board with landmarks between Zilean and Xerath, and then kind of finishing up the game with Arsenal. So why would I bring this deck up again? Because there's 2 cards that just got released that I think are very, very, very good in this archetype. One of them is Drop the Bomb. So Drop the Bomb deals 2 to a unit, so it removes an opponent unit potentially, and then summons a Scrappy Bomb, which synergizes with both Xerath and Arsenal to be able to actually level them up, or can give you the fodder that you need to be able to do Rite of Arcane. And then the other unit is Rite of Passage. Rite of Passage is really good because in this deck, it can summon back a Time Bomb. So you could potentially level up Zilean here. Let's say you have Zilean, you draw a Time Bomb, you play that Time Bomb, then you play Rite of Passage and play another Time Bomb, and your Zilean's leveled up, right? And he also synergizes with other cards, like he synergizes with your Sarcophagus, giving you another free Sarcophagus there. I want to say those are probably the two best target, right? And even if you don't have the time bomb or sarcophagus, sometimes you can still hit your Perseverance, which is not bad. Probably the worst hits that you can hit here are Drop the Bomb or Rolling Sands and Ancient Hourglass. You could actually hit Ancient Hourglass, but it's just going to summon like an empty Hourglass, which, you know, could be useful in certain situations if you want to get like a free trigger with Ezreal, but most of the time it's not going to be worth it, right? The rest of the deck is pretty straightforward, where you're just sealing Xerath, where you're just keeping your Xerath alive, just trying to get some value, and then go for the Arsenal Bomb at the end. If you're not already winning the game by then because of the other value that the rest of your cards give. Obviously, very landmark heavy, not as many units. I do go up to 3 Red Arcane because it's a great way to kill Gwen, for example, or to kill Kai'Sa, which both have 4 HP. So it becomes even better to have something like this that does exactly 4 to a unit. So yeah, I think this deck has the potential to be powerful as well. I think you're gonna see a lot more Zileans leveling up now because of Rite of Passage. This is probably one of the best Zilean supports that you could see out there, which is pretty crazy. And even if you don't have Zilean on the board, Rite of Passage is still really good for a time bomb because he's giving you a time bomb which draws you a card and also dealing 1 to the whole board. So yeah, it just feels really good when you get Rite of Passage into time bomb with this deck, which is nuts. So yeah, let's move on to the last deck that I have for you all today. And this one is gonna make people hate me, because this is gonna be a Twisted Fate Nami Shellfolk deck. You heard that right, Shellfolk deck. Why am I bringing this deck to your attention? There's these 2 cards that got released in Bilgewater that now synergize with Shellfolk. One of them is Swindle. So Swindle lets you manifest a non-champion card from the opponent's hand. So with Shellfolk, you're getting 2 copies of whatever card you pick, which is nuts. Another one is Ransom Riches, which lets you manifest a follower that you can afford. So you end up getting 2 followers with Shellfolk. So all of a sudden, you're getting so much more value here just because of these 2 cards, combined with Trinket Trade, combined with your Oedipus Plank, combined with Conchologist, and you kind of get what I'm going for. Now, this deck was popular before. I think it was really back in like December of last year. It was really popular, and then he ended up with Shellfolk getting nerfed. She used to have 6 health. However, I still think with 4 health, she can still be pretty good in certain situations, especially with this deck that can potentially save her with Shelly or Nami buffing up her health. Obviously, as another Twisted Fate Nami deck, your main win condition is still going to be those big elusives with the Burblefish, Fleet Admiral Shelly, but now you get an alternate win condition where you can get a lot of value because of the Curious Shellfolk just stealing your opponent's card and giving you a condition that they did not expect. I think this deck is very interesting as well, and it's going to be very annoying to go against because the opponent's going to know your whole hand. Between Pranks and Swindle, they're going to have all the information that they need to try to play around different cards. Now, this deck doesn't have a lot of great ways to play around cards, so I don't think that the hand knowledge is as important or really that impactful. But, you know, never hurts to know your opponent's hand, especially when you really are going to be getting 2 copies of their cards, right? Which is pretty nuts. There's a consideration here that instead of Twisted Fate, you can play something like Illaoi and go more for the Illaoi package for some more support that way. But I do like this idea of Twisted Fate Nami to kind of have an alternate win condition with Twisted Fate, especially because we are still playing triple Iron Nakaboros to have a lot of draw in this deck. Obviously, we also have a Spooky Stick, which also works as a draw. So you kind of get the idea here of how crazy this deck can be. Really, the hardest thing here is going to be keeping your Shellfolk alive. Which might be a lot harder to save her than I think. But you know, we'll see how it goes. And yeah, that's it. Those are the 15 decks, right? Again, if you go to my profile on Runeterra, you will have all 15 decks here that I just suggested today. Obviously, I'm gonna be probably posting more decks throughout the next day as we get to the patch. You can see what deck we're playing in our match history. I have all the links for all the decks below as well for you to just go and check them out yourself and start copying those deck codes. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of these different decks, and if there's any one of them that really jumps out at you that you want to try out, and we kind of can talk a little bit more about it. I'm still deciding which one I'm going to start with first, but right now the ones that I'm really liking are either, I'm definitely going to start with one of the new champions, right? I'm not going to play any of the old archetypes, like I'm not going to play Twisted Fate Nami. I'm thinking either Kai'Sa Viktor or Gwen. And either Gwen, Yuumi, or the Gwen Elise Prankster brand. So probably one of those 3 decks, or even the Kai'Sa Lucian deck. I think one of those 4 looks the most interesting to me. So I'm probably willing, not the Kai'Sa, sorry, the Evelynn Lucian deck. So I'm probably willing to try one of those decks out. But I'm really leaning more towards Viktor, just because I love Viktor and I think this deck could potentially be pretty nuts. So we'll try that out when the patch comes out tomorrow, and we'll obviously release a video on whatever deck we decide to start up our journey with. But yeah, enough about that. Thank you if you stayed this long watching us. As always, if you like our content, please make sure to like this video below and subscribe to us. We post LOR videos every single day. We also stream on Twitch at Twitch.tv, where we stream 3 to 4 times a week. You're probably going to find us streaming tomorrow night on the new patch when it comes out. And you can also find us on Discord and Twitter. I already talked about Discord earlier in the video. The links to those are both in the description below as well, and in our Runeterra AR profile if you kind of want to stalk us and kind of see what decks we're playing. Enough about that though. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope I helped you out a little bit, and I'll see you all tomorrow in the new patch. Have a good night.